It's now been a year and a half since I started doing short-term rentals at my house in Palm Springs, and some things have really turned out different than I expected. I've now had over 40 different groups stay at the house, and let me tell you, I've learned a thing or two. So these are going to be the 6 things you need to know before renting out your house short-term. The first thing I wish I knew was that my house wasn't gonna get trashed. Back before we had our first renter, I kind of regretted spending so much on furniture pieces. I even talked about it here in this video.
The next thing I would do differently is spend less money on a lot of the furniture pieces that we got. Because the thing is, they are gonna get messed up.
Okay, but in reality, things didn't get messed up. I was really concerned that the nice furniture pieces would get damaged because I did have some movers that scratched a console table, but our renters have been really good with our furniture.
There is this idea that if you rent out your house to strangers, the place is gonna get trashed. And let me tell you, after having about 50 different groups stay at my house, this has not been the case. For the most part, people are very respectful. The furniture has held up great. Nothing really has broken. The only thing that's broken is the tail off of this little dog. That's it. This is something that's good to know going into it, because if you are skimping on nicer furniture pieces because you think they're gonna get destroyed, you don't need to be doing that. In 2023, if you can invest in a few nicer furniture pieces, it's gonna set your place apart and make the whole experience feel more luxurious. You don't have to ball out on everything, but I'm glad I did with certain pieces because they've held up really well. But I just found with myself, I was nervous to buy certain furniture pieces because I thought they were gonna get trashed, and they haven't. I remember specifically this coffee table I was nervous about, but it hasn't broken and people always comment on it. It really goes with the style of the house. And so I don't regret getting it because I think that a few key furniture pieces that are pretty nice are going to set your place apart. Now in 2023, people are getting actual interior designers for their short-term rentals. So I think if you're trying to compete in the more luxury space, you gotta have some nicer furniture, and you don't need to be so worried that it's gonna get trashed. I actually would encourage you, if it is within your budget, to go for the more expensive piece. It's just like that saying, if you buy cheap, you buy twice. And that can be so true with furniture. I'm glad I invested in some nice pieces that have held up really well, because the truth is, everything is still in really good condition, so you don't need to be super worried about stuff breaking.
The next thing I wish I knew is that I could list my short-term rental on booking.com. I want to thank booking.com for sponsoring this video. They are literally the perfect sponsor for this channel because the Racquet Club Resort is on booking.com. For the longest time, I thought booking.com was just for hotels, but you can rent short-term rentals on there, and so if you have one, you should definitely put it on there. You are really missing out on potential renters if you're not on booking.com, because it's one of the major travel websites. Booking.com has had 1.1 billion short-term rental guests since 2010. By listing on here, you can reach their loyal Genius customers who tend to spend more per booking. And they also have a Smart Flex reservation program that can help you sell up to 30% more nights by adding flexibility to some of your existing cancellation policies. If a guest cancels, booking.com would look for a replacement. They have their own loyalty program, so they have their own loyal customer base that prefers booking.com. 45% of booking.com's partners get their first booking within the first week of joining booking.com. What's great is it's so easy to set up. It takes about 15 minutes to get your listing up and running on booking.com. You can transfer in your reviews from other platforms and your photos. Here's a look at my listing on booking.com, and I'll link it down below if you guys want to go take a look at it. It's very easy to set up. Got all the photos transferred over and even reviews from past bookings. With booking.com, you're still in complete control, so you can still message your guests, communicate rules to them. You have liability insurance up to $1 million per booking. I'll have booking.com linked down below if you want to get started on there. So that is a really good one to know. The next thing I wish I knew is how important amenities are when it comes to short-term rentals. In 2023, amenities are kind of a must. You've got to have more than just a house. Luckily here we have a pool, a hot tub, and a fire pit. If I were to go back in time, I think I would add one of those little putting greens where the citrus trees are, maybe an outdoor kitchen instead of a grill. I mean, I'm seeing some that have full pickleball courts. That, I think, is so smart. If I had the space for a pickleball court, 100% I would add one. Gone are the days where you can just have a studio or one-bedroom apartment. People would rather just book a hotel. It's also equally important that you showcase these amenities within the first few photos of your listing. A lot of people don't actually read the description, so they need to see it in the photos. So if you're looking to do a short-term rental, It's much more worth it to do a place that can host groups, that you can have some cool amenities, and just offer people a more unique experience than what you can get at a hotel. Next thing you should know is that if you do go down this path, it will always be in the back of your mind.
Because the reality of it is you're signing up to maintain a house. And houses always have little things, little quirks that need attention. It's so fun to dream about, having a vacation house to use for free and furnishing it and all the fun things. But you forget that once it's up and running, you just are always aware that there could be an emergency at the house. There could be a leak. The hot tub could break. Normal maintenance things, not even from guests doing anything wrong. And so it does just complicate your life a little bit, but I do think it's good to know you're signing up for just minor headaches here and there. I find I'm able to make it fit with my lifestyle, and having a property manager helps a lot too, but that comes at a cost. I'm not really going for making a profit on this. I just want to break even and have a property manager so I have more time to focus on other things. Just know that the reality of having a short-term rental is home ownership. It's maintaining a house.
And I think when that reality hits, a lot of people would rather just have a more passive investment and then rent an Airbnb from time to time, but not have to maintain the whole house.
The next thing I wish I knew was that you can sometimes actually make more money when you lower your nightly rate. Our first year the rental was live, we were strictly $700 a night, even in the middle of the summer. It didn't really make sense. Our strategy was really just to take the highest paying bookings and leaving it empty at other times because the utilities are pretty expensive here and we only get a certain number of rental contracts.
I've mentioned this before, but in Palm Springs, you only get 36 rental contracts. So you don't really want to use them all up on the $400 a night low season bookings when you could be getting $700 a night. So it was kind of tricky to figure out how to do this.
Well, what I found is even despite the utilities being expensive and despite there only being 36 rental contracts and bookings that we can do, it is actually better to just lower the nightly rate at certain points and take those lower bookings. Especially if you have a short-term rental that doesn't have a restriction on the amount of bookings that you can do, really I wouldn't hesitate to lower the price if you're not getting bookings a couple months out. We definitely made a good amount off of only doing $700 a night bookings, but we ended up at the end of the year finding that we didn't even use up all our rental contracts. It definitely would have been better to take some bookings at a lower nightly rate than none at all.
I know this one might seem obvious, but when you only have a limited number of rental contracts, you might be hesitant to lower your price.
I found that going into the summer this year, we had more money in our short-term rentals bank account, even though we had lowered our nightly rate a little bit, about $100 a night lower on average. I personally found with our house that lowering the nightly rate a little bit has actually made us more money, even with a limited number of rental contracts, because this year we're not gonna leave money on the table. We're gonna actually use up all of our rental contracts. Okay, so those are a few things I wish I knew before renting my house out as a short-term rental. A lot of it really has been about how I expected it to go, but there's always gonna be things that you don't expect with this sort of thing. Overall, I'm still really liking having my house as a short-term rental. The house has been doing a little bit better financially this year compared to last year, and I still have been able to enjoy it quite a bit myself this year when guests aren't renting it. That's really the best thing about having a vacation rental, being able to enjoy the place yourself. I want to thank Booking.com again for sponsoring this video. Definitely check it out if you have a short-term rental. Okay, I hope that you guys learned something from this video. I have a ton of other videos about my short-term rental that you can check out if you want to. I'll have them linked down below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!